Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. It's Jackie Kashian and it's May. I will tell you that May, I'm all over the place. I am in Boston doing the Women in Comedy Festival the weekend of the 8th, May 8th. I am working all over Los Angeles doing various headlining sets for Andrei Belikov, who I don't know very well, but has booked me in things like Goleta, so you can check my schedule on my website. I'm in Scottsdale at Stand Up Scottsdale the weekend of the 23rd and 24th, and I'm in Tacoma, Washington, outside Seattle in its own city called Tacoma, Washington, the last weekend of May. And then the first weekend of June, I'm doing AnimeCon again, A-Con in Dallas. Live Dork Forests, stand-up comedy. That's right. JackieKashian.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. Those are the websites. Mike Rickberg just sang that song he composed with his girlfriend, Sarah Cohen, and he will sing the Mexican Hat Dance at the end of the show. Patrick Brady will fix this audio. And then Vilmos just updated my website, JackieKashian.com, with some new headshots and stuff for people, and a really great picture of me and Tiberius that the headshot guy took. Also on my website, there's plenty of merch. Dork Forest t-shirts, the new CD, the new DVD. This will make an excellent Horcrux. So go for it. There's also a link on there to the $5 download of the DVD show if you just want to download it and watch it that way. The DVD has one bonus track, and that's exciting. You could also just donate. Donate to the show if you are enjoying the Dork Forest. $8.33 a month is $100 a year, which is what I was hoping from each and every Ranger. $100 a year. $8.33 a month. I haven't made it easy. You're going to have to remember to do it. $8 in there. But there's a donation button on dorkforest.com, tdf.libsyn.com, and jackiekashian.com. Turns out there's donation buttons around. This month's episode is sponsored by my sister, and there is an ad. She's a helper Magoo. She's a financial advisor with RBC Dane Rauscher, and she's a good egg. So if you are looking for financial advice, I would recommend that you get in touch with my sister, Darla Kashian, and you can hear her ad now. Thanks a lot for tuning in. At RBC Wealth Management, social responsibility starts at the top. As a part of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC has been recognized among the world's financial, social, and environmental corporate leaders. Our sense of responsibility extends to our reputation for putting clients' interests first. My personal commitment is to help you achieve your financial goals by also considering sustainable and responsible investing strategies. To learn more, visit www.darlakashian.com. RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC. Member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Dork Forest live at Moon Tower. Moon Tower, here we are in Austin, Texas, Moon Tower Comedy Festival. And sitting with me, I have Dork Luminaries, the Sklar brothers.
Thank you.
And let's check some levels as long as we're running this professionally. Gentlemen?
By the way, and is someone sitting next to that woman up there? There's no one I feel terrible for you at a Dork Forest thing to have someone is literally sitting balancing on top of one of the soundboards and there's an empty seat right here.
It's all right.
It's hard to get to. It's hard to
get
there. And we also have Erin Foley in the house.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen. That's very nice.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, here's what we know about the Dork Forest. People come on the show, they talk about what they love. Now, what these three have in common that we know that they love is obviously dance.
Yeah, my God.
Huge
All
dancers.
types. Flamenco, ballet,
Oh, God, yeah.
modern.
Drop it,
tap,
dropping it hard.
Drop it
and
like
low.
dropping it like
low.
it's lukewarm.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Very big fan of that.
And my back goes out.
There is, by the way, no amplification system attached to this thing. They didn't think I needed one.
It feels weird
To
to
talk into
talk into something that does not go anywhere.
And that's not plugged in. It's not even plugged in on the
No.
bottom.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was like did you ever date guys at the beginning?
Oh, those are the dark, horrible years.
I was going to say, that's
Yeah.
probably what this feels like. You're like,
I know there should be something connecting here.
What's the point of this? I don't understand.
Hello.
This is not going to help me at all.
You have a sister.
I've got this thing in front of my mouth and it's not working.
For anybody, really.
I do not feel safe with any of this.
So clearly one of the things you love besides woodworking and dance is sports. And I said to Erin Foley yesterday, I said, what season is it? Is it a season now? Is it a sports season? Is there a sport going on now?
Fucking day is a sports season.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, right now it's the NBA.
pretty dreamy.
NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and
Baseball season.
WNBA training camp started on Monday.
Well, we were building up to that. So, you got to get the little ones out of the way and then actually make it to.
She did mention also that the scheduling of next year's NFL came
Came out on Wednesday night. It's Christmas.
Which is, which is big for fantasy owners, fantasy football team owners, which is fantasy
Or people
football.
who are living in a fantasy.
That's
Yes.
right. Well,
She said she pulled out her calendar and was measuring it.
Yeah, I got my daily planner out and scheduled them a Giants game.
that's right. Well, she's
and also looking at who can we beat? You
Yeah.
start looking at you're a part of the team. You're
Oh my God, yeah. We had back-to-back week 8 and 9 Seattle Seahawks and the next is 49ers. Easy.
I mean, if you're as pessimistic as us, because we're so pessimistic about our sports, as soon as anything goes wrong with the team that we're rooting for, we're like, it's over.
That's it.
They lost.
That's the end.
Fucking lost.
Yeah, these guys pre-show last night were talking about the Blues winning, and it was like
They lost.
It
The
was
Blues
like the worst. They're like, oh God,
No, the Blues lost in overtime. They were up in the series 2-0. Just like last year against the Kings, they went up 2-0. Then they lost 4 straight games. They've just lost their 3rd straight game to Chicago. And I simply said this, and you can tell me if this is out of line. I said, I think the Blues after this game, they need to go into the locker room. They need to take just a moment, get near a shower, take off their belts, and hang themselves. Is that Why am I a bad guy for that?
Quick question: what kind of game do the Blues play?
Hockey.
Is it a basketball team?
I told Jackie, I was like, if you want us
Hockey.
to mix it up,
shit.
I literally will talk about my obsession with dancing and then chime in about sports.
No, I mean, we have many other obsessions, but sports is just, I don't know.
fun.
Are the Admirals still playing? Are the Milwaukee Admirals?
The Milwaukee
still
Admirals.
Is that still a team?
I don't know. I think that was from a tailhook convention. They all got busted for sexual harassment, I think. Milwaukee
That's
Admirals,
like the
right?
whitest probably team ever assembled, the Milwaukee Admirals.
Yeah, that was the only basketball team that had epaulets on the side. That was very bad idea with the fringe hanging down, just terrible.
I went to a hockey game. I saw them play the Admirals. I saw them play. So this was, granted, this was probably in the 1980s. And so I don't think that they are still. I don't know.
We're going to confirm that they are actually not around.
Well, that was well. It couldn't have been
go
an
right
NHL team. It was probably a minor league hocky team. I
Yeah.
don't know what they
Okay.
were for, but
Okay.
IHL or AHL.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Or
right.
something you.
But I'll say
something
this:
you
we
created.
just commentated a fantastic ping pong tournament that
Right.
happened right down at Pong Rock. It was awesome.
I heard
It was amazing, and actually the sports quality. And we had a great time. We were just gagging around.
And it
throughout
went
the whole thing.
hours. It was
But
hours. Levels.
It was long.
Well, we
lot
first,
of levels.
well, before we got here, we were like, well, I don't know if the crowd is going to focus because they had 4 games going on at once. We're like, I don't know if people are going to want to listen to us for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But as we started doing it, and as the matches started, like the tenor of the day started taking form, and certain guys were really good, and we were looking forward to them meeting each other in the next round, and it became like a real sports tournament. And the final match was as amazing as any finals of any NCAA. It was Berber,
Who was playing?
Shane Berber,
you guys
Shane
know
the Barber Berber.
yeah. Against Michael Downey. I don't know if his first name is Michael, but I'm calling him
Michael Downey.
That's a good name.
Michael the fabric softener Downey.
And And Downey had Berber Downey. It was 16-11, and
he had him down 13-6 at one point. It was amazing.
Then it was 16-11, and we're like, wait, this is over. And Berber was destroying everyone every match. And then he started working his way back up and working his way back into the match. And then it was like 17-17. Berber goes ahead 18-17. The crowd is into it. We're still trying to make
It
jokes.
was cheering.
Oh no!
Wow.
It was an amazing athletic. These guys are sweating.
Yep.
And that's.
You don't think of it with ping pong, but Judah Friedlander, I was telling you guys,
Yeah.
Judah Friedlander came on. He talked about ping pong.
the world champion.
For 1 hour. He's the world champion. He brought his ping pong kit.
Yeah.
He brought a roller bag to an audio event.
Smart. Smart.
With his own blades. They're not called paddles when
No,
you're at his
they're
level.
called blades.
They're called blades.
Yeah.
He plays
Wow.
with Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon owns a chain of ping pong emporiums.
Of course she does.
I got to start playing ping pong.
There's a couple in L.A. There's a couple in New York, and I believe that was.
I
one
think
of the
Susan
reasons.
Sarandon at all of her ping pong outlets should sell like those really tall mom underwear.
Making friends. What's happening? It's what? Yeah, I don't know. But ping
It was
pong is
exciting.
more exciting.
No, this
than
was
you
exciting,
think.
and it made us say this is why we love sports, and this is because we didn't know who was going to win. We had no idea, and the excitement. It's true drama where I think it does not exist in other areas of this world, and so I don't know. It got us really excited.
It's so weird when people are like, why are you so into sports? Like, I don't get it. And then
Yeah.
I just think, oh my God, how are you not? It's such a huge part of my life. Literally, I think about it nonstop. I wake up in the morning. Like last night, I was like, Austin's too much fun, and I had to take a night off, which still included 2 gin and tonics and a piece of a pop brownie. But that's
Right.
another story.
It's a night off in Austin.
A night off in
That is a
Austin.
night off.
I would literally have to go into rehab every time I leave Austin, but I went back to the hotel a little bit, and I started watching the 30 for 30 about the Big East.
Greatest thing I've
and
ever
I
seen
was
in my
up till
entire
like
life.
2 a.m. being like, oh, that's right. Raleigh Messamina. This is like 80s, like specific, and I was like engrossed.
This was amazing.
How long are one of those 30 for 30 shows?
Like an hour and a half?
Hour.
Some are 2 hours, some are an hour, some
Yeah.
are an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They're like incredible documentaries.
It's
They're
30 of
amazing
what to
documentaries.
30 of what other?
It's 30
Well, I think originally it was 30 filmmakers
doing 30 films.
Yeah.
doing 30
Okay.
films.
But I think it's expanded.
But
beyond.
last summer they did 9 for 9. Did you watch those?
Which was a Title IX,
Yeah,
the women's
that's-
ones.
yeah.
Yeah, I did watch.
They were
I watched the
amazing.
Pat Summitt one.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We had a Pat Summitt joke. We had a Pat Summitt joke and she's actually sick now, which is not great because she's a wonderful woman.
They still do it.
We just we just said that like Bruce Jenner, when you watch him on the Kardashians now, looks like a Shetland Pat Summitt, like a shorter version of the winningest coach in women's NCAA basketball history.
And he's out of the pantsuit and into a sweatsuit. I don't know why.
So we made that joke. It's nothing about her sickness, but I mean, it's, the fact that we would make those jokes. I mean, we were downstairs, again, doing this ping pong thing. There was a moment, and I just remember watching tennis as kids. I remember there's a distinct moment of our parents shopping for a car when our dad got his brown 2-door Monte Carlo. Great idea to get a 2-door with a family.
A door so heavy that like it took the whole family to open it.
Open it up. It's like he would go, when we were kids, he had a job. Second job selling real estate, and he would go. This is what it was like in St. Louis in like the early '80s, late '70s. He would go and show a house, park in the driveway with us in the driveway in the car with the keys in the car, and we would listen to the Cardinals baseball game, and he would show the house with a running car with your kids in the fucking car.
And literally his excuse was no one's going to be able to open the door on their own.
But I remember shopping for that car at Weber Chevrolet in St. Louis, and
How old were you guys?
Probably
this is like 79, okay?
77.
78, 79, maybe around there. And we were 7 years old. 'Cause
So
we
you
were
were
born in-
7 years old just sitting in the car listening to it.
Well, yes, but I mean, so when they were shopping for the car, there was a small TV in the back playing like the U.S. Open. And I just remember watching a Connors Borg tennis match.
Okay.
In the back of this car dealership, and we were fixated, and we just, it's part of our childhood.
Is it because the sports are that it's people at the top of their game? Like, will you watch at not professional sports? Will you watch
College. I love college.
I
sports.
love
how about
college
a pickup
sports.
game? A pickup like if you walk past a basketball court,
Are you just-
and there are 2 children playing, and one of them says, And one of them says, "How long you been on crack?" Every time he misses, which is what happened when I
pull up my van and I do a lot of watching.
Kids, I've got towels inside
Hey,
here.
listen, you guys.
And some lemonade.
Anybody thirsty?
But I brewed it
Mojitos in the
myself.
van.
But is it the skill of the animal? Is it the skill of the human being,
Yeah.
or is it the drama that you don't know how it's actually going
I
to
think
end?
there's a mixture of both.
Yeah, a mixture. Plus, I played sports.
So do we.
And
Yeah.
so, like, when you're playing all of them, what?
I play a little hacky sack.
I know.
I want in on
Yeah.
that.
You mean
Yes.
foot bag? We call that foot bag.
Yeah.
I remember we did an episode of Cheap Seats, our show on ESPN Classic, where we would make fun of all these weird sporting events. And we watched a ton of sporting events. So we watched a ton of events and had to watch the whole thing in the raw footage of events that aren't really events, like super dogs, super jocks, like Olympic style athletes and their dogs going through the exact same obstacle course together. But obstacle course.
I would totally watch that.
But obstacle course was it was like a 4-year-old's birthday party.
Exactly.
It was not an obstacle course. But it was, and we would watch it, and you were kind of like, oh my God, who's going to win this thing?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Mike Conley, the triple jumper, or Bill Lundquist, the swimmer? I mean, it's like and what the fuck is Mud Puddles doing? He's not picking it up. Get through the cones.
What kind of dogs did they have? What kind of dogs did they have?
A
They
lot of
had mid-sized dogs,
Rottweilers and golden retrievers. I mean, we watched that. We would watch beard and mustache championships. Like there was a guy on Cheap Seats who had a beard in the shape of a check mark. To which we replied, he probably also has a check mark in the single column on his tax return. That's
Boom.
because that's a choice. But even that was like a competition. Or spelling bees, man. We would watch these like spelling bees, and like once it started heating up, and you saw like two kids like who seemed unstoppable. It was like, who's gonna fucking win this thing? I can't turn this off until I
So
see
it is
who
the
wins.
competition.
I think competition is a big part of it, and it's just
And seeing people good at stuff.
seeing people good at stuff. I mean,
And also, I kind of get into and this is why we kind of enjoy this whole Dork Forest thing, is that I love that for some people, the world, that's their world. So there are kids who live with spelling bee coach. Their parents send them to live with a spelling bee coach. That's not weird or anything.
Yeah.
But that's that they're like, we go to these competitions and you're going to win these things, and that is their
Followed by a lifetime of therapy and some sweet drug usage.
Yeah. But like Lori Kilmartin came on the Dork Forest and she talked about the Kennedys, and not John Kennedy, Rose Kennedy. Like John Kennedy's mom was who she and so the Dork Forest can be about whatever it
I
can
just
be.
think if you're fascinated by a world and it consumes you, to me, I'm now already interested. I'm like, oh my gosh, you put your whole life into this. That is interesting to me.
Yeah, it is true. It is good. So what sports did you play, Erin Foley?
Well, yeah, I was like a little.
Were you?
Boy, I watched. I mean, I played everything. I played.
Were you a tomboy?
I was. Now you can, just say gay, but
Are you gay?
freedom, that word. But yeah, and also I'm a twin.
That's right. You guys are all fucking twins.
I know.
I know.
And we've been
So
friends
weird.
forever, so it's awesome.
know.
Yeah. So Megan is my twin, and she was like a runner, right? She runs like marathons, and we're like
Megan
exact.
and Erin Foley, are you guys Irish?
We are.
Okay,
we
just
are.
curious.
We
Just thought
are.
maybe-
But like, if you could separate the room, like I played everything. Like I played soccer and softball and basketball and like anything I could get my hands on. And then Megan would just like run forever. Like she, you know what I mean? It's
what
like
was she
so
running away
opposite.
from?
Me probably being like, you want to play basketball? You want to play tennis? You want to play softball? But our room, like growing up, you guys probably had it was probably like, similar stuff on the walls. But if you walked into our room, Megan was on the left side. She had posters of like Scott Baio and Kurt Cameron before they became horribly creepy. And
by creepy, you mean Christian, right?
nailing it.
I think they.
Yep, pretty much. And then she had like, I remember.
What you have on your wall?
Yeah. And she had like a tree with like a kitten. It was like, hang in there. It was like this sweet little part of the room. And then my side of the room was Steve Largent, Phil Simms, Don Mattingly,
Also, some
Lawrence
of the craziest
Taylor.
Christians you'd ever want to think about.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
that's it.
So you know what I mean? I remember getting my first softball glove when I was like 6 years old, and I slept with it. I held it.
That should have been your first indication you're gay.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, I just wish someone had taken me aside and been like, "We're going to save you a lot of time and a lot of headache."
But it is true that like sports and the history of it, the memories are amazing. Like my son is 5 and he just started playing t-ball, and I found at my house my first glove that I used, and it's a little big for him, but like I brought it to him, and he's now using the first glove that I ever used.
It's so awesome.
It's so awesome, and that it was signed by Tito Landrum, who is like a very like obscure player on the Cardinals from the 1982 World Series. He's the only player to have won a World Series in both leagues in back-to-back years.
He won in 82 with the Cardinals and 83 with the Orioles.
He was a very good-looking guy. I mean, we were.
Wait, did they?
Ladies and gentlemen, Tito Landrum.
Tito Landrum
beat the Brewers in 82.
Right, because I.
Do you remember that in 82?
Well, that's because I was selling swag. I was raised by salespeople.
Yeah,
and so I was selling.
So are we. I feel like that's why we connect.
Yeah, I was selling Brewers. I was selling Brewers buttons in high school. I was a freshman in high school.
Get out there and sell them, Jackie.
That's it. And then I got called into the principal's office, and they were like, "These are not licensed."
Suddenly, your assistant principal is like needs the express written consent of Major League Baseball to do shit in your.
Right. Well, because one of my brothers had got them. He said, "Hey, I got 100 extras of these. If you want to try and sell them at school." And so I sold like 60 of them for
right,
$1 each.
Nice.
And then I get called in. I'm wearing like 4. That's all I got left. Because I am the biggest goon in high school, so I'm wearing 4 of these. And he goes, "So I understand you're selling some." And I had taken them all off but one. And I said, "I understand you're selling those buttons here at school, and you're not supposed to sell stuff at school." And I said, "Did you want to buy one?"
Always be selling.
Always be selling.
Always be closing.
Always be closing.
Always be closing.
Yeah, if I wanted to eat dinner, and so. Because I came home one time and because they expelled me for selling candy bars they were supposed to be 50 cents, student council candy bars, and I was selling them for $1 instead of 50 cents.
You marked them up.
I marked them up. A little skimming. And when they called me in, they said, "Hey, we understand you marked them up." And I was like, "Yeah, but you're getting your cut. What do you?"
Yeah, exactly.
And so
you are your father's daughter.
Wait,
Right,
did
so they suspended
did you
me.
actually in that moment try and bribe them into like I'll cut you in for 25 cents if you keep your fucking mouth shut?
I was so confused. I was genuinely confused when I suspended. I was walking home, just like I thought about killing myself because I was like, the world has gone topsy turvy. I'm in trouble for selling successfully. And so I get home, and my dad and my sister are sitting on the couch, and my dad looks at me very sternly. He's like, "I heard what happened," and I was like, I don't know. And he's like, "Dinner's on you." Bam. And him and my sister just started laughing, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Anyway, but my dad watched boxing when I was a kid. Did you guys ever watch boxing?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got a great boxing story. I mean,
Okay.
again, and it was all sports, but I can tell you where we saw, in my mind, the greatest boxing match of our lifetime. It was Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. It was 1987, and it was one of those fights that it was a fight that you could only get on pay-per-view, and our friend Howard Opinski got the fight on pay-per-view, and we went over to his house and watched it. And in that fight, Marvin Hagler clearly, if you go back and watch the fight, beat Sugar Ray Leonard. But Sugar Ray Leonard, who was in the 70s, there was a great 30 for 30 about the Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran was a super macho guy. Sugar Ray Leonard was this good looking, smile on his face sort of a guy. They had a really tough fight where Duran killed him. Beat him.
Yep.
And just beat him bad. Then
shot him.
Then shot him. No. Then Sugar, they had the rematch, and Roberto Duran, who's the most macho guy ever, quit in the middle. He said no mas, apparently, and that's the name of the thing. So Sugar Ray Leonard kind of never got his shot really to fight back and show what he could do. Then later, he makes a comeback, and he fights Hagler, who is the best fighter, I think, of that
super
time.
intimidating.
Super intimidating, a badass dude. And Sugar Ray Leonard got the crowd into it, and with a little flash and whatnot, he beats him in this thing just on a decision.
On points?
On points, and it was like, the judges, it's so crooked. It's like figure skating, judging. It's so crooked, boxing.
So crooked.
It is. Not as crooked as figure skating.
Well,
I mean, it's not. What am I saying? But no, but it was an amazing fight, and I just remember that was a time we were like freshmen in high school, and we saw this fight, and I knew I can tell you where we were, I can tell you what it felt like to watch that, and this is at a time when we didn't know what we were going to do with our lives, and yet that was a seminal moment for us to watch. Then you're watching this like.
Did you ever train to box or fight or kung fu or any? How about yourself? Was there any hitting? No. Okay,
no hitting. But talking about what Jason was saying, like I think one of the wonderful thing about sports is really when you can share those moments, like with your parents. Like my parents were crazy sports fans, and my dad and I have an older sister, the apple of his eye, and so my dad and I we get along but we don't get along like that well because we're the same person. He's an absolute lunatic, right? He's
a gay woman.
Yeah.
Just always like, who's gayer?
It was one. But no, we communicated through sports,
Okay.
And he grew up in Brooklyn, a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan, and he had this old little game that we used to play, and it was like a wooden baseball game, right? And then the sticks were the players, and you'd roll the dice, and if it was 1, 2, 3, it was like a triple.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was like this, and this
Like
is
a
what
fake
we did.
baseball.
Yeah. And so I learned all about the Brooklyn Dodgers through these games, and I would we were living in New York at the time, and I, was a big Yankee fan. I apologize. And so, so I learned about like kind of his life, and he'd go to Ebbets Field for a nickel. And this was like in the 50s,
Right.
So it was all these shared moments that make everything super special. So so then I started watching the Yankees like my whole life. And about 6 or 7 years ago, my parents retired to Florida, as you do. And so they're in like the Tampa Bay area. Now they're raging Tampa Bay Rays fans, right? They watched every single game for the last like 8 years, right? So I come down and he said something about, the Yankees are playing the Rays. And I was like, are you torn? Like, are you going to root for the Yankees? He goes, I hate the Yankees. I've never liked the Yankees. And I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? Like, you watch all these Yankee games with me. He goes, no, I've hated the Yankees since I was a little kid. And he faked liking the Yankees so we could watch ball games together.
That's the most loving thing I've ever.
Best thing ever.
As a person, I'm like, that's a little untruthful. As a dad, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah. It's just the sweetest thing ever.
Look, I watched the movie Planes twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
I watched McKenna, the American Girl Story, more times than I would like to know. But I mean, it's amazing when our father was no longer around and really instilled in us a ton of sports and whatnot. And our love of it, we would go see like football Cardinals games with him. And so much of that was all of us doing it together. And
like, there was something like we would be in Sunday school, Jewish Sunday school. And he would,
Was it held on Sunday?
Yeah. Is there non-Jewish? I don't know. And so we would,
it's called church, asshole.
It's also held on Sunday.
Is there a thing where non-Jews go to worship? What is that called? Is there a Lord other than the Jewish God? Okay. No, and we'd be sitting in Sunday school class, and like our dad would come to the window of the class, the thin window in the door, and just hold up a bag of peanuts. And we would be like, all right, we're fucking out of here. And we'd be like, and we would go and watch the Cardinals lose perennially every year. They were 5-11, 6-10, 4-12. They just weren't good.
Okay.
But we would go and sit with our dad, and it'd be freezing.
I remember even the feeling of when you walked up out of as you're coming up the steps, over the steps down towards our seats, and could see the like unnatural color green of the artificial turf. And it was like this feeling like you were arriving in like Oz, in the Emerald City. It was like, it was like open it up and it was green and it was beautiful. And like you saw the uniforms and the cardinal on the helmet. And it was like,
it's like a bookstore, Jackie.
Yeah.
Is it
a comic book store?
Is it like when your dad takes you out to the bar at around 2 a.m. to
Yes.
talk to the bookie? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. Well, I remember our dad had never been to a World Series game. Now, he lived in St. Louis, and St. Louis, the Cardinals are good, and they've been to the World Series like 9 times. He had in his lifetime. He was born in 42. They were in the World Series a couple times in the 40s, 3 times in the 60s, 3 times in the 80s, and then in 2004. And he had never been to a World Series game that entire time. I mean,
wow.
It's pretty amazing. amazing. I mean, my mom's family lived in Canton, Ohio, which is where the Football Hall of Fame is. And we must have gone there like, I don't know, 30 times or 20 times when we were kids. We never went to the Football Hall of Fame because the ticket was too expensive. That to me doesn't make sense at all that our dad was like, it's too expensive to go there. We're like, it's fucking Football Hall of Fame. We should go there. But he never went to a World Series game. And then we got tickets. Jason and I shot something for the MLB.
Yep.
This is such a great moment for MLB Productions and for This Week in Baseball, which was a show that we watched as kids. We shot something there. So we're at the stadium. We got to walk on the field before the game earlier in the day. And our dad, who could barely walk, at the time walked on the field with our mom. We shot this thing in the seats. We come back down. And as we're down there, this tall guy with a ponytail, deep voice, Southern voice comes over to us in front of our parents. It was such a great moment. And he was like, hey man, I'm a huge fan of Cheap Seats. I love that show. You know, I think you guys are great. And we were like, oh my God, thank you so much.
He walked away and we were like,
see mom, say it to our parents. See,
like this is why sports are great. It doesn't matter if you're the owner of a team or if you're the guy the groundskeeper here at
the guy who runs the ground here at Busch Stadium. He gets our comedy.
He wakes up in the morning and puts the lines on the field, and he can relate to our comedy because sports is the conduit. And then on the loudspeaker, they're like,
ladies and gentlemen, singing the national anthem today for us is country music recording star Trace Atkins.
That guy walks over to the thing, and we were like, that was Trace Atkins. That was Trace Atkins.
You're like, I'm pretty sure that guy's a janitor.
Yeah,
all right.
The janitor won 5 Grammys.
Wow, it's.
Can't believe he still has to line the field. I mean.
That's awesome. The weird thing my dad
Enrico Palazzo, naked guy.
The weird thing my dad would say when we were kids, he was like, whatever we say, I hope we win the football game because I'm from Wisconsin and it'd be the Packers, right? Or the Brewers or
the
Bucks. The Bucks. Anyway, so, but my brothers would say, I hope we win. And, my dad would go, do you own the team? Do you have a vested interest? Is there money in this? And so he would always make fun of that. And then only recently have I realized that my father, I've always known he has had a gambling problem, but he actually did have money invested as to whether or not a team would win or not.
So he was incredibly nervous and tense in that moment.
Yes.
And he's like, I just don't want any talking happening in my house right now.
He would watch every game, but he never enjoyed it.
No.
It was too intense.
It's so intense. Like we went to the University of Michigan and we're Michigan football fans and basketball fans. And like, it's honestly to the point where I don't enjoy watching my own team play because I'm so nervous.
Completely.
Like,
I'm a wreck.
Or what I'll do.
I'm a wreck.
What I'll do is I'll pause it and let more of the game happen. And then I will fast forward through it with my eye on the score of a basketball game because I can't handle the real time action
I've totally done that.
Like, I can't handle the not knowing if we're going to succeed.
Yeah, no. I can't watch New York Giants games in public or around anyone because I turn into, I pace, like I get real, like I get crazy. I've got a lucky New York Giants scarf from 1991 where I was wearing it around my neck when Scott Norwood hit the ball wide right. And it was also around my neck at Yankee Stadium, the only playoff game I'd ever been to at Yankee Stadium because the tickets were in, $890 and we had paid and drink tickets. So, it's a little bit better now. Yeah. Everything's going to be fine.
She's going to be all right.
But, you have like $1, so, and I had that Yankee game, I had that scarf on, when, oh God, what's his name? Aaron Boone hit it out for the Red Sox. That was the only playoff game I went. So anyway, it's my scarf. So I have to figure out when to take the scarf out. I have to it's crazy. Like I have a routine. I was like, no one can see this craziness.
Part of you.
And during the last Super Bowl, the Giants, Patriots, the second time we destroyed them. Yeah. I was dating this woman at a time.
They won. Oh, they won.
And I made her so nervous. That she started vacuuming the house. And I was like, why are you vacuuming? She's like, you're making me incredibly nervous.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus.
I get it.
We get so negative about our team, about like the Cardinals. We were when the Cardinals were going on a run in 2011, like here's an amazing, I'll get back to this, but in 2011, we would email with John Hamm, who's also from St. Louis, who's a year older than us, and we're kind of the exact same like time frame with the Cardinals. and we're super fans, all of us, like we care about them, but he's optimistic and we're pessimistic. So we'll email him like, well, this is over. This series is done. These guys are finished. The Cardinals should drive home. They should fly home and forfeit the next 2 games. Like just all this negative stuff. Well, this past year we started doing that when they were playing Boston in the World Series, and we were like, this is ridiculous. The Cardinals, why are we even showing up? Da, 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 da. And he just sends back a quick email. Usually he'll engage it and say, you guys are terrible. He's like, you guys are the worst. You have to stop. And we send him back an email and we're like, no, we're never going to stop. We can't stop doing this. And then we look on screen and he's like in the box at Fenway.
No.
At the game. We're like, well, don't stop emailing us.
Stop.
What are you doing? You're at the game.
Right.
Like, I can't believe our negativity is seeping into Fenway Park. and getting into this guy. He should not have ever responded to us. But where it's sentimental is in 2011, the Cardinals played a game. I mean, it's rough for Texans to hear this, but in 2011, Game 6 of the World Series, I'm getting a middle finger from someone in the back. Game 6 of the World Series was the most incredible game, and Randy and I basically we were filming United States of America in Denver, Colorado, and we were out at the cameraman, the DP was like, hey, I got some friends here and they're fans of you guys from Cheap Seats and they want to take you out to a sports bar and watch a Cardinals game with you. Same thing as Foley. We were both like, I don't know if people can watch us because we like wish like AIDS on every player. I mean, like we can't, no one can see us want to inject them.
You are not the heroes.
No. We're like,
I want to inject air into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
It's just like a terrible, when someone strikes out. It's a terrible.
My bare hand.
We're the worst. And so we were like, this is a bad idea. And so, but he convinced us to go out. So we go to the sports bar. And like, since we're married and we have kids, we just don't hang out in bars anymore. And it kind of stopped along the time when we started doing things where we're more recognizable. So we're not like used to being out in public like that. And like, so many people were coming over to us. It was really cool. But at the same time, the Cardinals started like,
you're trying to concentrate.
And the Cardinals started losing. They start losing in this game by like 3 or 4 runs. And there's like a guy, their pitcher's on second base and he's got his jacket on, like just waiting to be thrown out somewhere on the base paths because he's wearing a fucking jacket. And we're like, if he scores, then we're leaving. We're leaving this bar, and we're never going to watch the Cardinals again. And I might jump off my balcony. So, guy, there's a pass ball. He goes to third. And the next guy gets a base hit, and he scores. And now the Cardinals are down like 3 or 4 runs, and we are like livid, apoplectic. We're so angry. And then we realize there's a moment where we're like, well, you know, this is the age of the cell phone, like video camera. And it's not like we're celebrities, but like in the sports world, some people know us. Like, what if someone like discreetly was just like filming us, like losing our shit and wishing the worst possible things on our team? And then like mails it into like sportsgrid.com.
The AIDS one would not go over well.
Deadspin or whatever, like one of these like sports blogs. And then it's like known that we're just the most toxic fans ever. And so we started to get nervous. So we're like, we have to leave this bar. So we get in the cab and we started taking the car back. And as we're taking the car back, someone texts us and like, Alan Craig just hit a home run. They're down by 2. We're like, oh. So we go back to the hotel, our hotel, where it's kind of empty. We get in the bar, and then the Cardinals miraculously tie it up and go into the 9th inning. And then I think in the 10th inning, like they scored a run, and then we scored a run. Then they hit a home run, scored 2 runs. Then we came back and tied at 2 runs. Then we held them. And then David Freese on the Cardinals hits a home run to center field, and the Cardinals win Game 6. And as the ball's going out, Joe Buck, the announcer, says, Simply, as soon as the ball starts heading into center field, he's like, and we will see you tomorrow night. That's a great call for a home run. He didn't even have to say it was a home run. Basically, the fact that they hit the home run means that there's going to be a Game 7. It was such a beautiful call. And we will see you tomorrow night. And our friend emailed us and was like, can you believe he said that as a tribute to his dad? And then he sent us the call that his father, Jack Buck, who's a Hall of Fame announcer who we grew up with, made in 1991 when the Twins won, and sent it to a Game 7.
Kirby Puckett hits a home run.
And as the ball goes in the outfield, Jack Buck said, and we will see you tomorrow night the same way. And it was like this little nod to his dad. And for us, who we had just lost our dad 2 years before, like that moment, like bound us to Joe Buck, who's a guy we kind of know. And it made that whole thing like super emotional. And we were like, for anyone who says, I don't get sports, I don't like sports, I never want to connect with it, like moments like that make you relate to your dead father or to, this guy having this experience with his own father. Like that's why sports is amazing to us.
I cry at anything sports.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm telling you,
emotional.
I literally, if you weren't here, I'd already be sobbing.
Yeah.
But I
am
not like you know what I mean? Like if I'm like, oh, I'm always like, oh, all right, whatever. But sport, I'm like, oh, like I get crazy emotional for sports. Like, and I also think, like if you take March Madness, I don't know what it is about CBS Sports, but they will play and I always, in March Madness, I always go down to my parents' house. Usually my dad was traveling, but he's now fully retired now because my mom's birthday is March 23rd. And my mom, Mary Agnes Kathleen Waters Foley, crazy March Madness fan. She goes so deep with March Madness, right?
Awesome.
And my parents fill out the brackets in pencil, round by round. I don't know, whatever.
Amazing.
That's how they do the brackets. So my mom, CBS Sports, I swear to God, every game, they will find the most heart-wrenching cancer, prisons, like lost baby, found baby, like whatever. I don't even know if that can happen, but the point is, and my mom and I will sit there, and just like, I have like the Michigan State dude, the center, right? Did you hear that story?
Yes.
He goes to like, this is before the game, and we're like, I can't even, like literally sobbing before the game starts. And then I have to cheer, of course. Now I have to cheer for Michigan State because he's in the freaking cancer ward with the little kid.
I know. I can't cry in an acting scene to save my life. If I needed to, there is a 10-second video that was up the other day online, and I highly recommend watching it. It's just a minor league hockey player coming over after the game. Did you see this? Mm-mm. And handing a kid, a boy who's like 7, you saw it, his stick.
Oh, forget it.
And giving him his stick.
Forget it.
And the kid,
I'm going down.
The kid's not even dying of anything. The kid is just.
The kid's not even dying.
That's how. Why isn't the kid dying? The pure elation in this kid's face, and he starts squealing and scream. Like the guy's like, "Here you go, son. It's all yours." And it's all yours. And the kid holds the stick, and he can't.
It's too much.
He can't believe that it's his. Okay, he's holding it, and he starts freaking out, and he starts screaming the way that we don't scream like that anymore because we're too self-conscious. And his dad's like, "No way!" And he's holding him, and the dad was like, he couldn't contain himself, and the kid was like screaming and holding the stick and like laughing, screaming for 10 seconds. And I was like, just tears streaming down my face, like sobbing, like I couldn't breathe and sobbing and watching it over and over and over again. And I was like, man, that is just it. It's like, it's so simple and it's so beautiful. And, if you don't get sports and you don't like sports, that's fine. But there is definitely a human entry point into the world of sports.
Sure, yeah. It's magical.
Well, that's the thing that I need explained to me, right? Because I don't watch sports, but I always I enjoy athletic prowess.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I enjoy people that are skilled at what they do, whether that is a plumber.
You tried to explain that there are rules and there could be a hacky sack game to me.
There was. You did a whole football game where you kick it over a net. That was like a competition.
Yeah, that's right. Which I don't. I'm more cooperative. I like a cooperative game.
This is what I couldn't, and you guys will appreciate this. I do a sports podcast called Sports Without Balls, and Jackie came on, and I made her watch the Olympics.
Right.
You were a good sport about that.
I saw some Olympics.
You're like, well, I know hacky sack, and I was like, all right.
Is that a thing?
And you just kept saying, I kept saying, you're like, oh no, there's hacky sack games. And I go, oh, okay. So
who wins?
Who wins? And are there goals? And how do you score? And she's like, no, they just like kick it around. And I'm like, no. Is there an end zone? How do you, I literally was like, it's not,
you
I couldn't get my head around
OCD
this.
about it and start counting how many people. And
you're talking about like a drum circle in like Golden Gate Park.
Totally.
It's like, we don't know when it starts. We don't know when it ends.
Venice Beach,
Everybody
or is this
smells
a game?
bad.
Yeah, I will say that I started playing hacky sack because you could hold a beer and smoke a joint while doing it. And,
It's one of the few.
I mean, I'm more of a but they're skilled hacky sack. I mean, there's tricks you can do.
Sure.
So there's trick hacky sack
Absolutely.
players, and then there's people where everybody in the circle hits the ball, and that's a goal.
It's not a goal.
I was getting so anxious when she was. I was like,
But what is it?
What is it? How does it end?
Right. It ends when your mom calls you in for dinner.
It's not a game.
It's sort of like kill the guy with the ball.
Yeah.
You just keep playing until the bell rings.
Yeah,
And you're like,
and
I gotta
then
go
you're
wash
done.
up.
Yeah.
And see you tomorrow.
I do like that because it is like communal, and I do like
Yeah,
it
the
because like
community of it
you
is-
can't be texting while hacky sack. I mean, I guess you could, but like it's something that forces people to, even if you're passing a tiny
foot
like
bag.
mini beanbag back and
Yes.
forth with your foot to someone, you are sending
Relating to
kinetic energy to somebody and relating, and so therefore I can get behind that.
Yeah, and it's super supportive. So when you play with somebody, like I'm constantly trying to get someone to play with me. So I'm always, and so if you play with someone who never plays, you just are like, no, that's great. You're great. And they're like, no, I hit it once with the side of my knee. And you're like, no, that's it. That's the first step. You know, you get it.
You're supposed to suck.
You're supposed to suck initially. And then you get it with your inside of your foot, and then it's nice. And you try to
I just like footbag, using the term footbag because you can, and we did this on Cheap Seats, you just replace, like, make it like a curse word.
Oh,
Like,
footbag.
yeah,
Hey,
Hey, you
footbag.
footbag and footbagger.
Yeah.
You mother footbagger.
Yeah. It's true.
Get footbag issues.
Yeah.
But I get, like, I do, like, the last 3 minutes of a basketball game.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the drama of that. The beginning hour of the basketball game is harder for me just because I'm like, well, they're going to keep playing, so someone's going to keep scoring, and
I
then
get
the
it.
last 3 minutes will be the big time.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I do like, I mean, and I, you know, I've watched my nephews play and I've watched my nieces ice skate, and, you know, it's all very exciting when they can ice skate backwards, and, you know, and
Very difficult.
I don't. And so, but yeah, no, but I don't follow a team, but I know more about the Green Bay Packers just through osmosis.
Yeah.
Just because I'm from Wisconsin
Right.
and everybody keeps telling me.
We said this on Marin's podcast when he was asking us about sports a while ago, and I think sports is the last bastion of civic pride. Like, people don't they care about their city, yes, some here or there, but like, sports is a chance for us to be like, yeah, we're from Houston or we're from Sacramento. I mean, there is a Real Sports, by the way. I'm going to tout that program, not just because Brian Gumbel is a pompous asshole, but because that program is a great way for non-sports fans to get some human side stories into sports and cry about it. But there is a story about the Sacramento Kings. Okay, they're a basketball team in Sacramento, and they were supposed to like leave Sacramento because the Maloof brothers were going to take them away, and someone was going to buy them. And the thing about it was that that's the only professional team in the city of Sacramento. Like, that was the source of their civic pride. Even though they weren't a great team, they didn't want that last thing to like leave the city. It's almost like the factory. It's like a Richard.
They were saying like that. I saw that. It was an amazing program. They said like the city would have just like
Collapsed in on
collapsed.
itself,
like,
or lost
that was
its
their
spirit.
pride
It's like,
with
do
the Kings.
you know Richard Rousseau?
No.
Okay, he's an amazing
Phenomenal
American author, and every one of his books is like about a small northeastern town where the factory already closed down.
Okay.
He wrote Nobody's Fool. That was a movie
right,
that they
right.
did with Paul Newman and Melanie Griffith. Whatever. But he's
Susan
a
Sarandon.
wonderful author, but it started to feel like that for Sacramento, and it was getting like that. And then this Indian, like born in India, like first generation businessman, billionaire, who had moved to Sacramento, like he felt the pain of the city and he stepped up individually and saved the team. And like,
And just
For like a
bought the
gazillion
team.
dollars, he bought the team to stay
to
in
keep them in
Sacramento.
Sacramento. And like people all over the city, people who I'm guessing probably were racist against anyone who wasn't.
He's like a little
white,
Indian dude. He's like a small dude.
but really sweet and enlightened and
So
smart
awesome.
and like, and obviously you're brilliant because he's a billionaire and he's a self-made man and it's incredible. And this town is like indebted to him and people walked on the street and want to kiss his hand and thank him for saving this team. And that's all about like he like saved the city.
That's great because I don't know if you've been to Sacramento, but it's they have a part of Sacramento called Old Sac, which it's Old Sacramento. They call it Old. It's the creepiest name of any part of town.
It's a shame the economy is really sagging there.
Hey, it's an old Sac. Nice work.
Thanks.
But it's a great place to buy a kite and some fudge.
Sure.
And hacky
Old
sack.
Sack.
Hacky sack and old sack.
And Old Sack. Hacky Sack and Old Sack.
Yeah, that's a great.
No,
sorry,
but you were
that's a great
talking about
documentary.
civic pride, and again, this kind of transitioned into something else that we want to talk about that we're passionate about, and we may not have time. But I was watching on Netflix a documentary about the band Big Star, Alex Chilton and David Bell, and I mean, it's an unbelievable documentary. I highly recommend watching it. But in that documentary, which it was incredibly tragic, and as artists, we should all watch it because it's, I don't know whether I feel good or bad after it about it, but it was like all this talent, and just because of a bunch of things, it never really got to be what it could be, and they just made a couple of great albums. But there was a point in the middle there where, like after the third album, where this huge scene in Memphis, kind of this Memphis art scene, it was art and it was music, it was photography, and they kind of went on this big run of like something that's ugly is beautiful. And if it's discordant, it's beautiful. If it's like you're taking a shot of like these wires up here and they just look all haphazard, that's art and that's beauty. But there became this huge surge of pride in Memphis, linked into this music scene and this art scene, and so everything, and that became a thing, almost like sports, where they say we love Memphis and we can get behind Memphis because we're doing this art scene here that's happening right now in the late 70s. It just, to me, was really cool.
Right. It's any sort of
That had nothing to do with sports.
Well, no, but
it didn't, but it had, but
everything to do with civic pride, which is what you were talking about, and we're talking about music.
And if Sacramento could embrace Old Sac,
right,
it would be like that. Because I don't know if you've been to Memphis, but it is a mess. And the fact that they can embrace Memphis and go, we're a mess, and we are going to fucking embrace
we have been
that.
to Memphis.
You have been, You should. Austin, you guys have civic pride, right? You constantly telling me that
tremendous civic pride.
I remember when I first came here, people kept saying to me, we're the live music capital of the world.
Right.
Every 12 feet. Someone would say that.
We got off the plane and there was a band playing in the airport.
In the airport.
A phenomenal band. I'm like, what airport has a band?
There isn't one. It's the greatest airport
I
in the
was
world.
like, this is amazing. I mean, we've been to Austin before, but I just thought,
it's always great.
I was like, this is different. This is different than other cities. Right here, right now, I'm getting off this plane and I'm hearing wonderful, beautiful music being played. It's like welcoming me into this town.
Yeah.
It was cool.
This is how much I like Austin. I bought a Longhorns baseball hat.
Oh.
Now, I have been trained as a New Yorker to hate everything about Texas. It's like everything. Like, I hate the Cowboys. I literally, like, as such a crazy sports fan, they're the enemy. The Cowboys are the enemy. I'll give you, like, some Texans maybe. I mean, the Houston Texans, I'll give you a couple players. And, after performing here for the last couple of years and just like, there's just this friendliness. And I went out dancing. I like to go out dancing a lot. And, Art and Marina and I went out dancing on Thursday to Barbarella. It's like one of my favorite places to go dancing at. Oh, it's so awesome. And I was telling everybody, when when you go out dancing, and I literally go out dancing like across the country because I perform across the country, then I go out dancing. There's no eye contact on the dance floor, right? Austin, I've met like now people that come to see shows and we all go out and hang out on the dance floor.
That's right.
Literally, they're like, hey, and I was like, fuck it. I'm going to cheer for University of Texas football team.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to do it.
Charlie Strong.
I'm going to do it. And that is a hard thing for me, but that's how much I
I liked Friday Night Lights.
It's a
That's a great example.
That's the
That was a
greatest-
good- that's
that's
a
the
good
greatest
movie.
Great
TV
example.
program of all time.
That's a great
No,
example.
I was watching the news here in Austin. That I don't know why I watched the local news for 5 minutes, but they were doing a sports report and they were talking about NBA playoffs, hockey playoffs, and then they ended the headline. The headlining act was about a high school football coach who was changing schools.
Yeah.
That was more important than the playoffs.
Oh my God.
More important than the Ukraine.
It's what everyone sat through to wait to hear about.
Yeah.
They're the Ukraine. All right, yeah, Middle East peace. Yeah. But is he fucking staying at this high school?
Yeah.
He's moving to the next county?
What?
Yeah.
Odessa.
That's hilarious. It's okay. So are there sports, what I usually do in the last 5 minutes is talk about anything you're reading that you would recommend, anything, whether it's online or the written word, a book or a magazine or anything like that. Is there, what are you reading? Anything good?
Oh, geez. What was the last thing?
I have two things. You have a baby. You haven't done shit.
I haven't done No, I start one page. The last book I read that I literally just finished was Ask the Dust by John Fonte, and that was phenomenal. That's a great book. Yeah, thank you.
Fiction?
Yes, fiction, American, about a writer, this brilliant character. It's it's in a series of 3 books about Arturo Bandino. That's the name of the main character, and it's about him being in LA in the 1930s and falling in love with this Mexican waitress, and him writing a piece that got into a magazine, and it's brilliant.
Okay.
Loved it.
Oh, cool.
Nothing to do with sports, though.
I have
Right,
I have two things. One, a sports book that our really good friend. We become good friends with him. He's on Baseball Tonight, which is a big show on ESPN. He writes for Grantland. His name is Jonah Carey. He wrote 2 phenomenal books. The most recent one that he wrote, and he sent it to us as a promotional thing. We had him on our podcast about the Expos, and it's
about baseball in Montreal.
baseball in Montreal. It's about the Expos. It's called Up, Up and Away, and it's really. Forget about that yes, he gets deep into baseball, but it's literally the story of this organization that they should not have had a baseball team come to Montreal. It happened. Then all of the civic stuff that behind it and why it didn't work and how, despite all the odds, they actually made it to a place. I mean, the story is known, but he really tells the story of this organization. So I've been reading that, and then I've sort of coupled it by reading Morrissey's autobiography, which is, first of all, put out on Penguin Press, which they don't do any autobiography. So he's like, there's going to be literary. And I have been playing my daughters so much. I got a record player for my birthday, and my wife got me a record player, and I've just been gobbling up records. So I've already been to Waterloo, I've already been to Encore, and I just have been in every city I go now. I have I go and gobble up records, and so I've been trying to play my kids all the Smiths and Morrissey, and they love it. It's it's just incredible. Morrissey, he's got this tremendous Latino following, which is just amazing, and I've been trying to understand. I think it's because he's so dramatic. He's like a Telemundo. You know what I mean? He's his music is like a telenovela. And so I realize that my kids are kind of dramatic too. And it's just so fun to play that stuff and get them into that sort of thing. So I've been reading the autobiography because I just want to see, I'm just fascinated by him and what changed for him. And it's a little hard to get into, but when he starts talking about seeing Bowie for the first time, when he starts talking about his absolute fascination with the New York Dolls. So now, I didn't know much about the New York Dolls. I knew a little bit about them and David Johansen, and the fact that he made the most annoying wedding song ever in terms of hot, Buster Boy Nicer. I feel like now that I've read this, I can excuse him for that because when
was it published? Is it recently published?
Recently, he recently published it. It's called Autobiography. How Morrissey is that?
That is very, very
How Morrissey is that? It's so good. So those are the 2 things I'm reading, and I highly recommend both.
Finally, there's some self-absorption. Morrissey gets to talk about
He
Morrissey.
gets to really check in with himself.
It's a high bar, and he reaches it. So it's pretty amazing.
How about you, Erin K. Foley? What's happening?
Well, I just ordered 2 sports books on Amazon. Well, one because I'm interviewing this a really good ESPN writer, Kate Fagan, and she came out with a new book from her time of playing basketball at University of Colorado, and she was figuring out that she was gay, and her entire team was Mormons. And so that's going to be a phenomenal read. And then she's going to be a guest on Sports Without Balls when I go to New York in May, so that's going to be super cool. And then I never read Confederacy of Dunces, and I just banged that out. And it's like one of the best books. It's probably my favorite books I think I've ever read in my life. I just, all
right.
Just stop reading that one.
All right. I just finished, the Furious Cool, the biography of, Richard Pryor.
Wow.
So,
How was that?
That was, he was a mess.
Yeah, he was. No. Richard Pryor? Are we talking about the same Richard Pryor?
It feels like Richard Pryor died way before he died, though. He's like one of those guys.
It's like a Weekend at Bernie's thing. You just like
where you're just like, right? It was like he died in 2005, and I could have sworn he died in 1997.
Yeah.
And so it was, but the early part of it, just talking about him breaking into all the stand up and the kind of stuff he was writing and the kind of stuff that came out, I was like, oh, that is, because I've never, I've been watching stand up live, for many years, and so never listened to any albums of stand up comedy. And so, so I'm sure
he
it's
could
great.
make me laugh. I was listening to one bit of his. I almost drove my car into a guardrail listening to this on like the radio, but he was doing a bit about, it was old, like 70s, and it wasn't dirty, but it was about like a winos. He was talking about winos. He's like, the only thing winos care about is running out of wine. So if a wino runs out of wine, it doesn't matter. Like, he could be face to face with Dracula.
Yeah.
Dracula looking into a window, for someone he's gonna, and the wino could be like, hey, hey,
What's your name?
hey boy, what's your name? He's like, Dracula? What the hell kind of name is Dracula? The way he said Dracula, I'm going into a guardrail. It made me laugh so hard. It was not dirty at all. No. And I just was like, man, that's
There's
funny.
a great documentary. I mean, it was good only because Live at the Sunset Strip, they didn't record on the Sunset Strip. They recorded it down in Long Beach.
Right.
And they talked about how he went to record it the first night, and it was terrible.
Right. And he apologized.
But they have the footage of that.
Yeah.
And, people heckling him, and just it was really bad. He got lost. He didn't know what he was doing, and then he came back the next night
to do this exact same set.
And he killed it.
And destroyed.
And then that's what we all know. But a lot of us didn't know and to see the footage of that is
It seems like every night of my career. I'm like, could I do that one again? Can we repeat?
You guys, okay, so it's at Sklar Brothers on Twitter.
Yeah.
And is it sklarbrothers.com as a gateway?
Supersklars.com will tell you what it is, but we have the new special on Netflix, and I don't know when this comes out. But
in a week.
In a week. So actually at that time, it's going to be available, the CD, DVD on iTunes, and that's where we're kind of pushing people. But if you have Netflix, stream the shit out of it and give it.
Yeah, do that. Do that. And what's it called?
It's called Sklar Brothers, What Are We Talking About?
Excellent. And how about Lady with Pockets?
Lady with Pockets is, your
my
new album. It just came out last week. Someone said, oh, when does it drop? And I was like, no, it comes out. It comes out. I don't drop anything. I am a white lady. And, so it came out last week. You can get it on iTunes.
Well, you're a gay white lady,
yes,
so it is going to come out.
Yes,
that's all it could do.
The album comes out before the jokes.
And and your Twitter is at Erin Foley Comic.
Yes.
With a C?
It's
and
I
the
list
website
stuff there. ErinKFoley.com.
There you go. So, JackieCation.com, Dork Forest. Thank you so much for seeing a live Dork Forest at Moon Tower in Austin, Texas. Thanks a lot, you guys.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?